Konoa's Dinosaur Theme Park was doing great. With their latest edition of the Dilophosaurus, things went smoothly, and with the increased income, the park's next dinosaurs could be welcomed. Their pen would be right next to the Dilophosaurus to even out the areas in the park. At the end of the main entrance street, beyond all the arcades, bowling alleys, fast food chains, and merchandise, a grand hotel was built for guests to stay overnight. It would be luxurious, spare no expense. It would represent the park's early success, and hopefully, in the future, the guests staying at the hotel could wake up looking out at several dinosaurs from their balcony. The next dinosaur to make its debut in the park was the Torosaurus. Seemingly similar to the Triceratops to mainstream audience, but in fact were a lot smaller. Their smaller size meant that they were not able to fend for themselves as much as the Triceratops was able to do, and thus, having at least two in the park was a must to let them feel safe. Right outside the hotel, more stores and facilities were being built to cater to everyone's need in a hand reach. And then the Torosaurus was welcomed, its pattern being more colorful than its bigger sister the Triceratops, and due to its small size, this was a fan favorite amongst little children. The two new additions were put in their new home, and they immediately started exploring. These creatures did not need a lot of forestry, as they saw this as a potential place for predators to loom. They felt most secure on the plain fields, where they could spot danger way ahead. But of course, the older dinosaurs, both Triceratops and Ankylosaurus, still brought in many of the guests who started to appreciate the variety of dinosaurs this park had to offer. It was time to give those two veterans some new neighbors as well, and for the next upcoming dinosaurs, the biggest pack yet was planned. The Parasaurolophus was a kind herbivore giant that had no defense mechanism and thus relied on being in a large herd to feel at ease. Word spread fast on the street of the new animals being ready for the public soon, and then all 5 of them were released in the wild. The migration from the incubation pen to their actual pen was quite the undertaking, as only 3 transportation helicopters could be used at a time. Konoa scientists hoped that the 5 new dinosaurs would bond just as well as the Struthiomimus did. As the final of the Parasaurs were being airlifted in, those who already arrived quenched their thirst and got to know their environment and fellow herd members better. The crowd loved seeing such a large herd of dinosaurs in plain view, but the downside to having a herd live close by was that a disease could spread rampant. One of the Parasaurs had contracted a sickness, and the ranger team was quickly sent in to deal with the problem before the others could be influenced by it as well. And thus, the park continued to flourish, with guests traveling from afar to spend 1 or 2 days with family and friends at this theme park. The dinosaurs loved looking out at the people, with curiosity, and sometimes left out a friendly bark. And with each passing month, the park grew, mostly putting more dinosaurs around the centered hotel area. The latest additions in the park were more herbivores in the form of the Polycanthus, easily mistaken for the Ankylosaurus, though not able to fend for himself, making him even more agitated to dinosaur contact than his bigger brother. and the Gallimimus, called by some bigger versions of the Struthiomimus. Much like the latter, these two needed to live in a bigger herd, and on the west side of the hotel, it became a nice crowded up joy of dinosaur entertainment. So many new additions to the park had really left the customers satisfied. Those who came during opening day returned to get a sighting of the latest attractions and were already fantasizing about what creatures would be next. Many felt the time was ripe to introduce another predator, and this time one that was bigger than the popular Dilophosaurus. Thus, the Ceratosaurus saw the light of day. It was the first dinosaur in the park somewhat resembling on what everyone thought a T-Rex being, albeit smaller. It had a menacing look, and the characteristic short front arms. But the horn on its nose was something the T-Rex did not possess. From newly built towers, the public could get the best view of the new predator. People queued up to get in the park and paid big money to witness the animal's feeding time, as it was much more of a spectacle than the Dilophosaurus was. But because of its size, feeding was over in a matter of seconds. Yes, everything went according to plan. With the bigger creatures being introduced, security was upped as well, and the visitors felt safer than ever. Because of that, it was ready for Phase 3, introduce the crowds to even bigger monsters. What could go wrong? The scientists were arguing on what giant to introduce next. Since the park would deal with a new size of dinosaur, everyone agreed it would be smart to start with herbivores. Everyone shared the opinion to incubate the Stegosaurus, a majestic creature but difficult to hold and please. It required a lot of living space, but also a lot of the same species to live in that area. Though the Stegosaurus was huge and could defend itself with its tail spikes, its sides were open for an attack by predators, making living in a herd preferable. As 5 eggs were incubated, the transportation once again was kind of a hassle, as the park's staff did not want to agitate the animals, since an escape by these would be awful. But the transportation went smoothly, and people were excited as they heard about the park's biggest dinosaurs yet. The freshly introduced Ceratosaurus noticed that he got new neighbors, and though these might seem delicious to her, the size of these herbivores made it to where they could kill a Ceratosaurus with one swing. The Stegosaurus attraction was immediately a hit. People could not believe how big these were as the ground shook while walking and exploring the newly received territory. Because of precautions, Konoa scientists still stayed away from the larger predators and instead introduced the Matriacantosaurus, similar in build to the Ceratosaurus, but bigger and leaner, making it more ferocious. Its stripes made it seem like a beautiful dominant predator, demanding respect from all who put their gaze upon it. Long queues formed in front of the watchtowers as the creature was towed and transported in. The park was now home to 3 different predators, the creatures that brought in most of the money and entertainment to the people. The Ceratosaurus and its latest addition did not need as much forestry as the Dilophosaurus, and so the people could get a good look at them even from the ground level near the fences. As many people could not witness feeding time for the earlier introduced hunters, this time the feeding for the Matriacantosaurus was done right near the fence so that everyone could see who, by chance, would walk by the pen. But introducing carnivores of a larger size than the Dilophosaurus did prove to unravel new problems, as the fences proved weaker in the middle and a slight opening had been created in the fence separating the Matriacantosaurus and the Stegosaurus pen. It actually took a while for the hunter to notice the gap. but once she sensed it, she rushed right towards it, before hesitantly heading into unknown territory full of new smells and new creatures. The guests noticed this too and quickly informed the rangers and staff. A helicopter would be sent out immediately to put the Metriacantosaurus down, but it seemed it would not make it in time before one of the Stegosaurus and the carnivore would meet face to face. The two giants stared each other in the eyes, knowing this was life or death. The meat eater used his deadly jaws and razor-sharp teeth, and the plant eater returned the favor with his large spikes and long reach. Blood flew everywhere, and though some of the staff were worried, most of the public loved the display of power between the two.